the January 19th edition of Contributor Experience. We are hanging out on Meets right now because Zoom is down. If someone could actually send out a note to the mailing list too with this access point, I will definitely be keen on giving you any kind of flag you'd like. I think I just got a ping from Josh. I think he's in now. Josh, are you in?
Let me try to send a mail.
Yep, I see him on the list.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. No, he just pinged me.
Hey there.
Hey. All right. Now let's get
technology.
I know.
Yep.
All right, so regular state of business. As always, we do abide by a code of conduct. Please be excellent to each other. I realize that this is a large call with all remote folks. Try to kind of like wave your hand or give some kind of signal if you'd like to speak while someone else is speaking, just so we can try to moderate that for everyone. If there are any new contributors on the line that would like to introduce themselves, you can either do it now or later. I'm looking at our list. I think we have all of our regulars. So hello, regulars. And then now we'll move on to regular program updates really quick. George, why don't you do those office hours and community meeting in one jump?
Sure. So we do need to figure out our host situation for the community meeting. I don't know if people just you want me to just give you the spreadsheet and have people sign up, or do we want to go through and who's going to do what week? Office hours is all set for next week. I'm going to be on the road all next week. So Jeff and Bob are going to kick that off. I sent the announcement, and the thread this morning is started for that. So those two things are set. The one big thing for the community meeting is the beginning of the year. So demos are kind of empty. So Josh is just going to put a call out for help during the community meeting. And if we don't get more, I was thinking about just sending a reminder to the dev list, which I could probably do today. But that's status if anyone has any questions for those.
Actually, quick thing on office hours. Do we have people from EU? Or should we start poking Julia and some of the other people?
Let's confirm them. Because the thing I'm going to next week is all of ex-Heptio, so we won't have Ralph or any of those people either. So yeah, after this, let's just start in the channel confirming people for next week. That's a good idea.
Okay, cool.
Put out a call for help. I think we'll need West Coast probably.
All right. Outside of that, anything else for office hours or community meeting? All right, sweet. Meet our contributors. Yes, always looking for more people. Obviously would prefer for 2019 to have people that have never been on before, but it is a new year, new us. So if you have been on and you would like to attend again for a future session, please reach out. I'm thinking about reworking the 2 time zone thing this year, considering now we don't technically only have one genuine Meet Our Contributor, and then the other one is always the steering committee edition. TBD on that. But if anybody out there would like to help me with Meet Our Contributors as far as like process improvements or anything like that, always looking for help as well. We meet first Wednesdays of the month. George streams it to YouTube for us. We do it live. We have it recorded. It's the last time I checked the numbers, we're talking about over 1,000 people last year who watched some of these videos. We're actually going to get some stats out there to the public here shortly. So this is mentoring at scale. That's it for me. Now let's quickly review the project board. I know we have a ton to talk about today, some of which is indeed on this project board, which is good. I'm going to share my screen here. Hold on a sec. Present. And here we go. All right. So the point of showing this project board to, for those who don't know, is really to get us all to a place where we're filing issues for stuff we're working on. So if you're coming here and we're doing open mic, open discussion, let's try to keep that stuff on issues too, so that eventually when we do get some more project management infused here, that we'll be able to run this entire meeting off of a project board. So let's see, I really want to go to blocked first, as always. Looks like I'm blocked right now with some one-on-one mentoring process improvements. I already know that's only due to time. And because we're looking at tooling right now, tooling being for matching people's availability, like Doodle, for instance. So we've just been blocked there. I'm going to pick that up most likely next week again. So I'll have a different status update there. And then we've got some stuff going on with SIG XAML. I know steering committee just approved the issue of having SIGs be documenting like what working groups that they are supporting and things like that, so that we can get updates from them and just know a little bit more about the working group. I think those two things are going to be coming out of blocked this week because there has been movement on them. I know Nikita, Christoph, and Steven have both done a lot of work on these issues. So that's coming unblocked this week as well. Now, is anybody on the line right now blocked in an issue that is not logged on GitHub or anything that they would like to discuss? And I don't have my Meet up right now since I'm sharing my screen. Hold on one sec. All right, Meet. All right, I don't see any hands, so I'm gonna go on. All right, hey Matt, just saw you joined. All right, in progress. We have, we're still wrapping up contributor summit stuff. Issue is in there if you're looking to see what the actual details are, because I don't want to go through all of them. We're still documenting some SIG lead lifecycle stuff. A lot of that is also being worked into governance lifecycle documentation improvements that we're working on, and hope to have that completed probably this week by the end of next week. Is there anybody else that wants to do a quick stand-up of stuff that you have in progress for our SIG that isn't listed on the open mic or open discussion deal? Quick stand-up, anybody? Aaron, are you on? I saw you. Do you want to do a quick stand-up?
I'm here. I don't know what ContribX related things I'm actively working on. I've been in meetings all day already. I think it's worth shouting out that we're going to try turning on Parabolos for team management this Friday, assuming we have achieved lazy consensus on Kubernetes dev. It's going to help us automatically populate GitHub teams based on pull requests that are merged into the Kubernetes org repo. However, it is this implies that team maintainers should not manually add people to teams because they'd get kicked out. So if that needs to be on this board, let me know. Otherwise,
are you tracking that in testing right now?
I think we're tracking it in Kubernetes org, actually.
Okay, cool.
Things that improve our lives from an administration perspective. But you're right. I feel like we need to communicate and document the process to the community someplace. So there maybe needs to be a K community issue, and that maybe needs to live on this board. You and I, if you can poke me like today about the SIG governance, SIG lifecycle stuff, I think today's kind of a meeting day, and I'm taking all review requests.
Okay, cool.
That's probably it for now.
Bob, do you want to stand up? I know you're doing a lot of work with, sorry, take that pen out of my mouth, style guide and stuff like that.
Just a quick thing on this, but I think the style guide at this point is mostly done. If people could just give it a look over. Let me see, I'll pull up the issue quick.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. Oh, there we go. Boom. Yay for search. All right. Yep. So if everybody on the call, if you're interested in this, if not, just glance over it. But Bob's been working on a style guide. Go ahead and there's the HackMD link right here. Go ahead and give that a peek. Again, for context, for folks that are like, why do we need a style guide? This is for us when we do a contributor site or anything else, really, just to make our documentation look a little bit better, a little bit more web friendly, and less kind of like thrown together with Band-Aids in some cases. And also really help us out with some of that metadata that we need to pull from like Netlify. Bob, thanks so much for your help with this. This is awesome.
Yeah, sure.
Anybody have any comments, questions, or concerns about style guide stuff?
Yeah,
Bob,
it looks good. I can do like the PR later for it.
Yeah, let me do an actual review. I feel like I've only done this, which is like skimming. So I'll do a full review and then get back to you. I don't see any major issues, that's for sure. So I don't see an issue with it. I definitely think though that we should once we do PR this in, definitely get it out to the mailing list. We might even want to put it out to KDev as well. Because I think a lot of developers are PRing stuff into the community repo, especially docs when we have missing holes and stuff like that. So at least it would be good for the community to know in general that we have a style guide now. And then also maybe take like 15 minutes of this meeting in the future and discuss some of the nitty gritty stuff, especially like the habits that we're currently doing that are bad. And so that we can change them. I mean, I'm not calling anybody, I'm actually calling out myself here. So I think that might be good for us as sort of like just a 15-minute, I say the word training in quotes, but some kind of like training on what we need to be looking out for in a better way for docs.
Yeah.
All right. Bob, are you working on anything else that you want to stand up on?
That is mostly it at this point, I think. A lot of my stuff sort of completed with the Computer Summit.
Okay, cool. And then George, do you want to stand up on any open items that you're working on that's not community meeting related or office hours related?
No, not really. I've been pretty much in the middle of transitioning, so I don't really have anything to report. But I do definitely want to. I saw the doodle. I want to concentrate on the content strategy and all the stuff that we discussed before.
Okay, cool.
But
Yep.
yeah.
And then last call for stand-ups. Josh, do you want to stand up with anything that you're working on right now? Or if no worries if not. And then we'll also do Edouard.
Everything I have is already later in the agenda.
Okay, cool. And then Edouard, do you want to do a quick stand-up with the dev guide stuff? We can always dig into more with open mic after we're done with KubeCon stuff with Josh. But do you want to I'm sorry too for the background noise, y'all. Edouard, do you want to just give a really quick stand-up about what you've been working on with the dev guide since the last time we talked? Or not
yeah.
we, but you talked to the computer experience.
Yes. Could you please open the issue on your screen? What I already have is, I have identified some files that we can delete them. Also, I have identified some files that need to be updated, but I have to contact the authors and ask them what kind of information we can take from them and then merge that information into the main README file. So if you go down, you can see the checkbox list. Go down. And there we have the file name, and I have put a comment on the right. So as I told you, I've already identified some files that we can delete them, and also some of them that have to be updated. Today, I'll start making some pull requests to just delete that files and update the others, just to update the others. So far, what I've been reading the whole folder, reading all files there, and I've been talking to some people about what they think about the skeleton. So I think so far we need some other folks that can read the issue and give us feedback about the skeleton.
questions for Edouard or any comments related to developer guide work? Edward, this is awesome. We might have to trim this issue a little bit, but I think your work is awesome. Thank you so much for helping us with this. And then I will set up a twice a week meeting with you from here on out until the end of your outreach assignment. So
Okay.
I'll get with you later on, and we can get to that. Aaron just chatted as well and said that he's going to review today.
Yeah, I took a quick pass a couple weeks ago, and there were some clear things that could get removed that you don't need to focus too much on. So I'll make sure I identify that stuff for you.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that is, yeah, and that to piggyback on Aaron's comment, if anybody sees anything in here that either A, doesn't belong in a developer guide, or B, just shouldn't belong here, period, like removing it, that actually helps us a lot, because then Edward won't have to focus on those docs and we can continue on. So if we could kind of do it backwards and go, okay, this stuff definitely doesn't need to be in here, or it should be somewhere else, that is the best thing for us. And then Edward's going to do some other tasks related to getting docs updated and stuff like that.
Yeah,
All right.
it's definitely still some dead contributor guide parts that, like, just ping me on and I'll do a PR and remove them. Or yeah, happy to do that. I tried to make it as clear as possible which parts were just kind of leftover debris.
Awesome.
Thank you. And I have a question.
Yeah.
There are some files that they have like 2 years last time they were updated. So how do I know that the person on the person that did the last commit is the person that I have to ask something about the file, or who is the person responsible? Or
you need help tracking people down, basically?
I see it more as a question of when it's a long, long time ago, having the understanding of whether that person is still relevant.
Right.
In general, this is a problem with open source. You have to do kind of archaeology and go dig a little bit. So if nothing else, they're a first place to ask, and they're probably one of the better people to tell you where to look, even if they're not. And it may take pinging the most recent couple of people even who've touched a file.
okay.
I would also say that depending on the context of file, you may figure out which SIG was responsible for that, and just pinging the SIG directly, not an individual, can be the good approach here.
Okay.
And that might be a useful approach. Right now, how it's just a straight list, maybe if you make it a minimal spreadsheet with last touched and last touched by SIG or human, that would maybe allow some binning or sorting, and maybe you hit 5 or 6 things at once then, instead of going one by one through the file list.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah, spreadsheet sounds like a good idea. We also have like
Sadly.
a few people. Yeah, even here, like even at Contributor Experience Group, we have a few people who've been with Kubernetes project for a long time, and we definitely may know if these people are still active on the project and what is the area of their responsibility, or if they're not, and what is the best place to reach out for updating these files if necessary.
Yeah, definitely don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, like spreadsheet is a good idea. Just like have all these things done in a single place and just like share it with the outer world, so it will be way easier to consume and to understand what's going on there.
All right. Edouard, anything else? Or anybody else have anything, any last minute things for dev guide stuff? This is a huge project, so that's why I wanted to make sure we gave a little bit more time for it.
Yeah.
All right. As always, Edouard, feel free to contact us on Slack, mailing list, etc.
Sure.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna give a really quick stand up, y'all. I know that's like, what, really quick. But there are several things that I'm working on, all of which are in the issues, most notably wrapping up contributor summits, gearing up for contributor summits, which we'll talk about in a second as well, doing mentoring things, doing governance documentation things, meaning deduping governance documents, because we currently have like 4 that all read mostly the same way, deduping those. What else? Meet our contributors, doing a content strategy for the contributor site, doing more communication and collaboration assessment tools, work through. I don't know if everybody saw it, but we submitted a G Suite proposal to the steering committee. The steering committee wrote back and asked about China and if we considered China and all their tooling woes with Google. We need to update the proposal with that information, and then also talk to any of our Chinese friends about tooling. I think Yang actually just ironically joined. Hey, Yang.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you? I'm actually probably going to reach out to you after the meeting to talk to you a little bit about tooling and infrastructure for Chinese contributors, because we submitted a G Suite proposal and a lot of folks were concerned about the Chinese contributors with having a G Suite and things like that. So I'll reach out to you and talk to you a little bit about that later on.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see what else is super hot right now. YouTube and Zoom is something that I've been working on as well. We did our first major test, which again, for context, we're trying to make SIG leads and chairs lives easier, because there's a lot of administrative work behind this, meaning we have to like record the Zoom calls, upload them to YouTube. Some people do, some people don't, etc. So we're trying to get some consistency there as well, and make that process better. We had our first major test, which was SIG cluster lifecycle, and it failed. It failed because they have like 45 sub-projects, each one having a meeting. And right now there's sort of a mechanical Turk at the end, which is Jeff and I on the YouTube side, who have to trim their videos because videos automatically start in Zoom, and therefore the automation will start when the video starts. This is not necessary. I don't think this is a huge issue. This, I think, would mean getting more YouTube admins and getting an SLA and like getting things like that. But I also think there might be one other way, which is to automate the Zoom recordings into a Google Drive bucket and then have the Google Drive bucket automate it to YouTube, which would allow the chair to have access to record on their own and not automatically, which is how it's currently set up. Welcome to the administrivia of our lives. So that's all the stuff that I'm working on this week for the most part. And then let's get into the open mic, open discussion. Any questions about anything that I just mentioned?
Paris, not a question, but I just wanted to give you a quick update on where I'm at. It's Matt.
Oh, yep. Hey, Matt. Yep.
So I created an umbrella issue earlier today. I haven't had a ton of time to work on the things that we've talked about around project management, but you've probably seen that umbrella issue. I know you've commented on it. I'm not sure how to get that into the board. And the other things that I'm doing with regards to that is just looking through all of the current issues and seeing how they're scoped. So I would appreciate any feedback in the umbrella issue to start with, just to make sure that we've got the requirements kind of gathered there.
100%. Yeah, I definitely commented and just said I'm so excited to see this flow through my email box because I do watch the community repo. So I was like, yes. Yeah, no, I haven't read it and I will give you feedback. Does anybody on the line has anybody else read the issue yet? I know Matt just did it a few hours ago, so it's super fresh. Or does anybody want us to give any context related to that?
A quick request to Matt, so can you please send a link or just CC me, so I'd like to take a look there. I didn't yet.
Send you a link to the issue?
The new issue, right?
And for those who don't know, Matt is from Mesosphere, and he's going to be helping us with some project management stuff this year, which is awesome, and yours as well. Link is now in the chat. I'll put that in the notes too. Matt, if you want, depending on how far we get with open mic right now, we can always talk about some of the requirements and stuff at the end of this meeting too, if you want.
Okay.
But yeah, last call for questions, comments, concerns to Matt. I know we're running through this stuff right now. We have a lot going on. All right.
One real quick thing that I'm investigating for the release team is the use of something to scrape GitHub issues and PRs into Airtable. I've seen other things that use that can like scrape the links in sundry issues and PRs to create dependency trees in Google Sheets or Airtable. So I'm interested in what you discover and happy to be a consumer and also share with you whatever it is that I find out with Airtable.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Thank you.
All right. So first up is staffing contributor summits for Barcelona and Shanghai. I guess the question is, what exactly are we doing? I felt like we were just going to do a new contributor workshop and then a current contributor party / happy hour / get together. Josh, what were your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, my thoughts was, yeah, for Barcelona, it would be 1 day with both current contributor and new contributor content. I'd also like to do the same for Shanghai, with the current contributor stuff being, just one track in a small room because there's not going to be that many contributors there. But there will be some, including contributors who don't make it to the other KubeCons. So I'd like to have something for them. So yeah, and mostly I just wanted to get started. I think beyond that, any decisions are up to the individual contributor summit teams. So I wanted to get started by picking those.
I think my only concern with having a lot of current contributor content at all 3 events is that we might be yelling into voids because people who are in owners files and making decisions might not be at these events.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if we're limiting the current contributor summit to the United States, then we're being kind of selective about who can be a current contributor.
Well, then, should we have a current contributor summit in Barcelona and not San Diego?
I feel like 3 months from now is too close.
Yeah, that's like
San Diego.
Yep. So sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm done. It's just like, network like between the ocean.
I just feel like
Yeah.
and then, well, if so, we're gonna have to like actually curate content so people aren't yelling into a void. I feel like in Austin, it was mostly people yelling into a void, and same with Copenhagen. I think this year was the first year that people like were kind of getting things done and making things happen. So I think it would just need to be curated. All right, so who wants to volunteer for those events, Barcelona and Shanghai?
So
I was when I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Gwen. I'll go after you.
I was wondering. I hear what you're saying about yelling into a void versus cured content. I also think that having cured content made everyone more exhausted this KubeCon. I'm not. I mean, this is literally. I have no data to back up this thinking, but 5 days of like curated content is more exhausting than 3 or 2. Well, 4 versus 2. I mean, that's twice as many days. So it's just more mental load. So I was wondering if there was a graceful way to split the difference between utter chaos and classroom style. having not attended the current contributor summit because
what was chaos about? What was the I'm sorry, what was the chaos part?
Sorry?
What are you describing as chaos?
The yelling into a void part.
Oh, yelling into a void. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, like yelling into a void meaning like everybody, like we have 50 plus people who are meeting in a birds of a feather and nobody in there is in an owner's file.
Right.
So therefore it's like everybody's just kind of like, hey, we should do this thing, and then nothing happens.
Yeah. No, sorry. I did not mean to make it to go all the way overboard with exaggeration, but that's what I was referring to. Is there perhaps a way to split the difference between that and between having fully curated content? Because I think what people often really enjoy doing is just, meeting up with people in the hallway. Like if there's a way that we can create space and at least some kind of focus without basically forcing everyone to, I'm not saying that that's what happened, but perhaps more of like an overview. Gosh, I'm not saying this well. Perhaps providing a space for people to do the things that they're looking for in a contributor summit, rather than top down making everyone follow along with a schedule.
I mean, I think that's what the Birds of a Feather were, and also the Unconference, and also the Contributor Lounge.
Right. But we did also have like a fully moderated track, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like there was no choice. Like you had to do one or the other. You couldn't do both. I feel like you could bounce between the two, but like there wasn't like time for curated content people that wanted to do all the curated content to do some of the Birds of a Feather stuff, I feel like.
I guess I don't get it. I'm not gonna lie.
Most of the curated content was like in the morning, and then the other stuff was slated for the afternoon outside of a couple of the sessions.
Okay.
I do kind of like Gwen's idea, like if we do want to have something for current contributors at like Barcelona and Shanghai, at least try and carve out a little bit of space for them to do something.
I feel like, yeah, I guess that's, I know, and it's like in a TLDR, I guess that's what, when I said current contributors, like party, happy hour, whatever, I also meant like they can do whatever. Like it's just we aren't curating an entire day of content at Barcelona and Shanghai like we would curate in San Diego.
Exactly.
That's, I guess, sorry, I guess that was the better phrase.
Yeah, and I think that, right. And I think that we should.
Yeah.
And my primary reason is because we have existing contributors who can make it to either Barcelona or Shanghai and can't make it to San Diego.
Right. Do we actually have a way for them to for the contributors to essentially see okay, we're going to Barcelona, or who's going to Barcelona, who's going to Shanghai or whatever, to try and meet up or plan something for them to talk to each other outside of just showing up?
George had something too as well, I think.
Bob, you're so idealistic. No, I just wanted to remind anybody. I know it sucks that we're kind of defaulting to only providing the curated content in the U.S., but I just want to remind everybody that for almost 2.5 months prior to Seattle, we almost killed ourselves trying to make this event happen. And I think I would rather we're going to do it once a year. The best we can do in Europe and Shanghai is a little, we know from the survey that the most thing they value is getting them together in a room. So if it's just a little get together, that's something very low effort for us to put on. And then from then on, if I would love to do all this kind of content for Barcelona and Shanghai and stuff, but at that point, we're going to need more volunteer and commitment from people. I feel like if we were to commit to doing these events.
That's why the agenda item is staffing.
I know, but Josh, you're going to have to staff it with 20 people per event. And that's a lot.
No, we don't make Shanghai or Barcelona as big as the US one is.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to get a lot of people for Barcelona too.
What?
Yeah.
You're going to get 400 people for Barcelona.
Yeah, I just want to caution that every time we've tried to scale it back a little bit and just make it you know, a little bit more intimate like the first ones. By the time we get through it, we end up with it just keeps growing and growing. I just want to make sure that we're cognizant of, you know, the amount. Like we barely pulled it off last time, I feel like, and like
we're still wrapping.
Yeah, I don't think getting too many people is going to be a problem in Shanghai. At least not this year.
Yeah.
Particularly not if we qualify them via DevStats. There's people who want to say things in the comments.
Yeah. Christoph first.
So just two quick thoughts. Number one, before we start going and planning all of this, I think we should figure out whether there's interest and how much interest there is from people to attend a contributor summit. What kind of interest? Like if we're getting like, hey, we have like 300 people of interest, but they're all new contributors. That'd be a very different type of like contributor summit than like, hey, we have 300 people who have all been with the project for over a year.
Yep.
I mean, I think we've got the data for Barcelona. Like we've got the data is at 200 people signed up last time. We can anticipate at least double that this time, I think. So we're talking about.
But do we know like the duration of how long people have been with the project and like maybe what areas of the project that they're involved in?
Yeah, then that's the thing. That's exact. I did analyze the list from, this is how I knew that we did not have the right people in the room, because I analyzed the Barcelona list, and over half of the people that signed up for the current contributor summit had made one or none contributions. And then the thing is we did have 65 people at a new contributor workshop. So I know that the Barcelona current contributor pool has definitely increased for sure. But I don't have any data with China. I'm sure Josh does though.
We don't have data for current contributors for China because we didn't have any current contributor content in China last year. But my estimate for China is going to be more in the realm of 25 to 40 people total. So, like I said, having too many people I don't think is going to be a problem in China. I think we're going to be able to have one small room for one day, and that will be sufficient for the audience there.
And then Dawn?
Yeah, so one of the things that we did when I organized the contributor summits for the Puppet project was, in order to reduce the load, we assigned people tables. So we would have, so-and-so is going to hack on PuppetDB on this table. So-and-so is going to hack on, whatever at this table. And we recruited a certain number of people to handle a certain number of tables. And then people could come and hack on whatever they wanted with those people, loosely organized into topics, which made it so that we didn't have to curate a ton of content. We did like a kickoff presentation at the beginning, but it also gave it enough structure that people could find something that they were interested in. And then there were some, non-coding ones too, like docs and things like that, so this requires that you actually have enough people to staff those particular areas, but they really just have to sit there and hack on stuff and talk to people. So it might be an approach.
That's a good idea, Dawn. I'm like going through the raise hand list right now. I think it was Jeff afterward. Jeff, yes, Jeff.
Yes, I'm just going to post. Can you hear me? All right, I'm going to just post an image from DanCon's Twitter that does show the trajectory of attendance as a data point. So if EU winds up growing as much as US, and those two attendance numbers correlate, we might want to consider that there's going to be 400 contributors in EU.
And then Chris.
Just a quick note here. So historically, like we are currently speaking not about the conference attendees at all, like in general, but about the contributor summit attendees. And historically, like from a personal standpoint and from my personal experience, I've attended every KubeCon since Seattle 16. We had way more contributors during the North American events compared to European events. So like the the percentage of contributors versus the end users was usually way bigger during the European events. So we can expect that Barcelona event can be bigger than Austin, but I didn't. Than Seattle one, the latest Seattle one. I don't know the actual estimates by CNCF yet, but I'm not sure that we will have way more contributors, active contributors, than we had in Seattle.
And then Chris, you're up.
Just want to say a word of caution as far as like asking people. If you ask too broadly, you will get too many answers. So just keep that in mind. I know that's kind of common sense, but yeah, these people don't understand. A lot of people, I won't say these people, many people do not understand the level of effort that it takes to put on an event like this. So ask judiciously.
And then I think, George, you were up next. If I'm reading this chat, if I missed anybody.
Yeah. This is more of a question for Josh. I feel like the new contributors summit is more repeatable, right? Like I feel like when we try to do the existing one, we're always constantly like challenging ourselves to find something that would be useful for like all the current contributors. Whereas, I don't want to trivialize the amount of work of the new contributor summit, but I feel like the new contributor summit, we kind of now understand as a group how to do one of those with a low amount of effort compared to doing a current contributor summit. Is that correct?
Yeah, although one of the requests that we've had, and we haven't compiled all of the NCW survey information.
Sure.
One of the requests that we had out of that was to basically have an intermediate contributors tutorial,
right.
Which then would be part of our current contributor content, right?
Yeah.
And it would be kind of nicely predetermined and scalable to at least 100 something people. So that's definitely a possibility to think about.
Yeah. I just feel like the amount of effort we've been putting into these, like I don't know. I just remember it was a few hours before, like we were letting people into the event. We were still like stuffing bags and barely like, I feel like the new contributor ones, in Barcelona and Shanghai are kind of like no-brainers. We've done them before. And I know it kind of sucks to only do the big one once a year, but I feel like that would also like give us the opportunity, because if we're also doing Europe, that's 4 months in a year where I'm doing event planning. And is that well,
again, like I keep saying, this is why I really want to start with the staffing discussion.
Yeah.
Part of the discussion is going to be if we say, oh, hey, we only have 2 people to help run things in Shanghai and only 2 people to help run things in Barcelona, then that's going to scope what we can do regardless of what we want to do.
Okay. All right. I will. Okay. All right.
I still think that this SIG and the people that are in events owners files need to collectively agree on the content and the strategy for each event, and that it should not be in the hands of an event planning ops group for each event. Like, I feel like we all need to come to consensus, like what George is saying, like having a new contributor workshop at every event only, and then only doing like a partial current contributor thing. I think that's the decision that should be on the table, because then that's going to feed whether or not what we need to staff and how we need to staff it. I feel like just from a high level. But then Aaron and then Tim, you're up.
So you all know better than I, but I am under the impression that some of what caused a lot of friction and pain in the planning process for the Contributor Summit at KubeCon Seattle was A, trying to compress it all into a single day, B, trying to deal with that and the CNCF trying to find room for 26 other co-located events. So it would really be ideal if we could be a little loose and flexible to understand like what kind of content is available. But I feel like if you are going to be dealing with those sorts of constraints again, it would behoove us to lock things in place sooner. And I'm kind of curious what the deadlines are from that perspective. That's thing one. Thing two is historically the project has, I think, found it useful to have a cadence of a bunch of people getting together in a room and talking about the future of the project about every 6 months. It hasn't always coincided with a KubeCon that we did like an invite-only leadership summit one time, like 2 summers ago, that I think some felt was really useful for getting everybody on the same page. So I personally enjoy the curated content. I feel like that's less important than making sure that it's very clear and obvious that SIGs have a dedicated space to do some face-to-face collaboration, because that's usually the most productive use of people's time when they're in the same room. Just my opinion.
There was another hand after.
I had my hand up. So I think what I was going to say kind of echoes what Aaron was saying. We have an expectation, at least. We don't know for sure, but we have an expectation that there will still be something for a contributor track. Like previously we've had SIG intros, SIG deep dives. We've talked about trying to bulk that up a little bit. There was also talk initially last month, I feel like, where people were saying it hasn't been super valuable. Let's just do away with it. But I think that maybe there's an intersection here where that could be part of the space that this happens if it's less presentation-y and a little more boffy, maybe.
So the survey results, we had 40 people, and I'm going to say over 70% of them said that they enjoyed the morning curated talks the best.
Yeah, I feel like this goes back and forth depending on the mood of that KubeCon. When it was too structured, people wanted it to be more boffy, and then we had one that was all boffs, and people were like, we want it to be a little bit more structure.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're going to be stuck with a half and half format for a while in order to, like, I feel that there might be times when the pendulum might swing one way or the other. We had considered, so I had talked about, could we make the formal one be the US one and the European one is maybe more boffy? But then that got a little weird as far as getting the right people. You know, that wouldn't really work because there's like a Venn diagram of people that would go to both, and then that would really only help those people. Like when we war gamed that idea, I feel like we're gonna end up with some structure and some level of boff and some level of unplanned boff, because I think people enjoy the ability to, I didn't think of anything, but if I can grab enough people at KubeCon, I've got space. So we want to keep the spontaneity as well. I hope that answers your question. I don't think there's an answer to that one as far as I can tell.
I'm actually going to suggest that perhaps we should be offloading that rather than us doing the curation up front. Perhaps if we offload the curation into more of the unconference election style earlier on in the process, that maybe we get some early votes early on as to whether or not we should have a single curated track or whether we should have more BOF and unconference style sessions based on what people want up front. And that may differ drastically depending on whether it's in North America versus Europe versus Asia.
Yeah. For this one, we did have people, before we committed it to GitHub, there was a Google working document, I think in July, where we had it open for a month. And that's how we figured out who was going to talk that morning.
3 months. We had that open for 3 months.
Yeah. However long it was ago.
The real question, though, is who's voting on it? Was it us that was doing the curation, or was it the attendees doing the curation?
It was everyone.
It was everyone in Dev. Did we share it with Dev? Dev?
We shared it with all the SIG leads, sub-project owners, steering committee, contributor experience, Kubernetes development mailing list. And then we also had the feedback from the registration, because I asked the question on there about what do you want to see at this event. So all of that stuff went into the curation of this event. So, I mean, the thing that we wanted to attack was the multiple personas. And the multiple personas is very much seen in the survey data. I mean, some of the pie charts are 33%, 33%, 33%, like yes, no, maybe. So it's like, all right, we might win in this one category. We might make everybody happy. So I think that, all right. So Josh, let's talk about what you think we need to do as far as staffing is concerned for this stuff. And what are you volunteering for?
Well, I'm volunteering to either run the Contributor Summit in Barcelona or Shanghai, depending on which one we don't have coverage for. I'll be involved in both, but I can only head up one because they're too close together.
So I think the first question should be, does anybody here know that they're going to China outside of Josh?
I am.
I will not be in China.
I will 75% sure be in China.
Okay, so it's Chris. Eeyore is obviously going to all of them. A little CNCFer.
Until the end of the world.
George, and anybody else? Is anybody else like right now going, I'm going to China? I think that's the one staffing thing, like from our crew, that we should probably look out for, Josh, is the China piece. I think, is everybody here, like, how many people aren't going to Barcelona? Or know right off the top that they're not going to Barcelona? I'm going to Barcelona. I think, George, you're going to Barcelona. Who else is definitely going to Barcelona?
So
Definitely going.
That sounds like a Shanghai for me, which is fine.
Okay. Yeah, no, you were a tremendous asset for us in Shanghai last year.
Yes.
100%. I wish we could give you some kind of like monetary bonus of some sort.
No, right. We're gonna say Red Hat takes care of that.
No, I know, but still.
We gave you the shout out during the intro, and everyone was wondering where you were. It's because you were setting up.
I know.
So
like, no, Josh is working. I'm sorry. Like same with Jeff. Like everybody we gave shout outs to at the summit was working somewhere else. So we were like, that's right, we work here.
you have to believe me that everybody clapped. I promise they clapped.
All right. We just took most of this meeting for Contributor Summit, which I anticipate that we should break off into a project meeting. Go forward.
Do we want to resurrect the Monday one?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do we want to resurrect the Monday meeting?
We might want to resurrect that. Yeah, let's talk in Slack in the mailing list about that. We also have a meeting with CNCF. If anybody here wants to get on that meeting, it's talking about budget, talking about their responsibilities here. We'd like to get it to a point where they do a lot of the operations. We did ask for a full-time event staffer from CNCF to work only contributor events like this, so that we don't have event staffers that are working 20 other events that day. I think this project definitely needs somebody from CNCF to just work events for contributors. And I think that will also help us a lot with staffing as far as like Josh's concerns were as well. Again, sorry for the background noise, y'all. I feel terrible. Like anytime I hear background noise, I'm like, I'm that person now.
You are.
I know. So Josh, why don't we like get a little tricks together? I said tricks, that's a Google thing. Like get a little spreadsheet together and we'll figure out like who's going to what definitely. And then we can kind of start going from there, and then also engage people on the mailing list that were not on this call too. And does anybody have anything from Open Mic that they want to talk about right now that can hang on? I can hang on. So if anybody wants to discuss anything that's on the Open Mic that can hang on, feel free to shoot.
I've got just a real quick.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I updated the host spreadsheet and tossed it in Contribex. If we can we need a host at least for next week. That's all up to date now. If you could look at that as you all leave. Thank you.
Host community meeting?
Yeah. I've got the schedule out to August 1st, so we're good.
All right. Anybody else on Open Mic want to say anything now or punt to next week?
I just want to say that we had a whole lot of apathy around the non-code effort, and we're trying to drag people back in. We got a call about it in 30 minutes.
All right. Anybody else? We can always punt to next week.
Working with who are locals in Barcelona?
I don't know anyone local to Barcelona. George?
I've got one of the GitLab community managers is based out of Barcelona. I can link you up with him.
Can you connect me? I want to do a cultural sensitivity check on.
Absolutely, he's excellent. This is
Okay.
going to be great. This is going to be a good one.
All right, last call. Everything else we can punt to next week. And we will no longer discuss at great length contributor summits on this call because it is a heated topic. All right. And that is it for today.
Bye.
Awesome week, everyone. Continue conversations on mailing list issues and Slack.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Hopefully Zoom will be back soon.
What did you say, Bob?
Hopefully Zoom will be back soon.
I couldn't. Zoom, we miss you, Zoom.
Constantly use this horrible Google product. We work. No.
Damn.
Oh my gosh, Jeff teleported. Jeff teleported to Bob. All right, I'm still recording. I'm clipping. Bye.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was kidding.
It can be trimmed. Don't worry.
Dude, it's so creepy. Bye.
Later.
How do I hang up this thing?
Hit the red telephone thing in the middle.
It keeps vanishing. There.